Welcome everyone to this evening's webinar, LGFA webinar, Fitness with and Without the Ball. Some ideas that we're going to try, I suppose, and share with you this evening. My name is William Harmon, Head of Coach Education for LGFA. I'm joined this evening by Teresa Mullihan. How are you, Teresa? Would you like to say hello and would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is Teresa. I'm a coach developer with the LGFA. I'm a GPO now in Fingallians in Dublin. My own club is Ballyboden St Enda's. So I do a little bit of teaching with Satanta College as well in youth athletic development. So that's me.
Excellent. And also, Teresa is a coach developer with the LGFA, delivers a lot of courses for the LGFA. So you might have seen her around the country over the last weeks and months. So hope you're all good. So I know there's a sound issue for some people, guys. So what you probably need to do is probably go out and come back in again, or maybe ensure that you click sound prior to coming into the webinar. So I know Peter, thanks Peter. So the sound is good for Peter. So it must be good in general. But if you are having issues with sound, guys, please go back out, come back into the webinar and just click sound. Good stuff, Robert. That's great. That's great to see. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So what are we trying to achieve tonight in this webinar? Our outcomes are very simple. It's outline the demands of our game, so you have an idea of what the demands are, but to explore a variety of activities that you can include in your sessions over the coming months, okay? So I suppose we always try to keep the key principles regarding our coach education webinars in terms of their simplistic in nature. There's something that all coaches, I suppose, could apply in their sessions if they were doing a session next week. And I suppose what we also want to, I suppose, bear in mind here is that, you know, everybody's coaching different groups. So just bear in mind the activities we're going to show and how would you integrate them into the group that you're coaching. Because every players are at different stages of development. So it's very important that we have an understanding that, okay, everything that we're applying here tonight may have to be modified or amended to suit the stage of development of your players. So hopefully now you'll enjoy this evening's webinar. Yes, 100%, Amanda. This webinar is actually recorded. So all our webinars that we do are recorded and are available on our LGFA YouTube channel. So if you get time over the coming weeks, give a look at them. We'd love to hear your feedback and how you find them. So I suppose the first thing to start off with, just to give a bit of context before we go into all the videos, and so it's what are we actually preparing for? Every coach here, when you're planning a session, whether it be for under sixes or adult level, you're always looking at four key pillars, four competency areas. That's technical. So what am I going to do this evening or today in terms of improving the skills of our players? Tactical. Well, what am I going to integrate into my session that will improve the awareness of space, small-sided games? How can I improve their timing and awareness of, I suppose, how to play with, you know, space and what's surrounding you in terms of a tactical, in terms of kickouts, maybe strategies around that. Physical, movement quality. Could be strength, could be mobility, could be aerobic fitness, could be anaerobic. There's so many elements that are attached to the physical element, but generally, if a player is doing a really good session, I'm sure they're going to be running a lot. And then you have the psychosocial in terms of that coach-athlete relationship, how you engage with your players, and also how to, I suppose, player to player, how do players engage with each other to, I suppose, develop that real good rapport with each other so they can have that real good relationship with each other so they can achieve what they want to achieve. So think about that. First thing tonight, any session that you're doing, you're always thinking about these four key areas. And I suppose it's not just the what, but it's the how you go about your business is very important. We've done loads of webinars on those areas, so give a look at them in your own time. But I suppose, Teresa, these are the four key pillars, really, that we all should be continually thinking of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose we want to develop a well-rounded player, like in terms of all of those four pillars. So we want them technically good in the ball, off left and right sides, soloing, hand passing, kick passing, whatever it is. We want them to be tactically aware and know how to implement a game plan. Physically, obviously, this is what we're going to touch on a little bit, I suppose, more of tonight. Just we need them to be strong, we need them to be fast, we need them to be fit, we need them to be mobile. And then the psychosocial, then of course, like it probably, that's the thing that probably glues it all together. And so that coach-athlete relationship and that peer-to-peer relationship, absolutely really important. So I suppose the thing with this is we've a lot to cover and we've a lot to get through in, say, you've an hour and a quarter for your session. So what we're going to look at tonight is some way or some little, you know, drills, games, activities, etc., that we can use to hit all of those four pillars of performance. I suppose, you know, and what I suppose we're trying to do is integrate all of those kind of things. And I suppose just to get a little understanding of, if I'm doing this game or activity, well, what am I developing from a physical point of view here? And then can I bring some ball work into that now, so I can hit two birds with one stone, or even three if it's tactical, if you want to bring that in as well. And then of course the psychosocial is the glue that holds it all together. So yeah, that's hopefully we'll hit some of that stuff tonight.
Fantastic, Teresa. And tonight, really, everyone, we're just giving you ideas. That's all. Okay, you'll decide where you will integrate that into your sessions going forward over the coming weeks. But hopefully we'll give you loads of ideas. Right. Okay, demands of ladies football. So really get an understanding, what is ladies football? What's involved? It's an invasion-based field sport involving high-intensity intermittent plays, where an intermittent basis, it means really that nothing is steady. Nothing is consistent, okay? It includes high-speed running, acceleration, deceleration, change of direction-based movement, okay? And I suppose for us as coaches tonight, for everyone, is that we need to develop all these attributes, which is very important from a physical point of view. But we also need to develop the sport-specific skills, as well as outlined by Teresa, that tactical, psychosocial element that's associated with the game. So I suppose really, Teresa, for ourselves, we need to understand, well, what are the players doing on the field that'll probably make sense of what we're bringing to the fore shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose if you think about, like, the high intensity moments are the ones that are really key. So if you're going to win the ball, it's going to be how fast you run, how high you jump, how well you can tackle those high intensity movements. So we have to develop that and pay attention to that. Or like if you look at our high speed running, that could be tracking back after a player or making a support run. You want to be doing that at pace. Your change of direction, that'll bring in aspects of your sidestep, your roll off, all those skills of the game. So we need to develop all those, but I suppose our challenge sometimes is how to get all that done in a session. And then there's some aspects of it then that, you know, you have to go away and you have to develop your strength and everything like that in the gym as well, and look after your mobility and everything like that. So yeah, there's a lot, but the key things are the high intensity intermittent plays, like, will decide who wins the ball, and whoever has the ball is going to decide what happens next in the game, I suppose. So, and then we have to have a really good, like, fitness level or aerobic capacity so that we can repeat those high intensity ones. So we want to be sprinting and jumping and tackling with the same intensity towards the end of the game as what we would at the beginning, because we know at the end of the game, when players get tired in the last 10 minutes, that's when all the extra mistakes and everything like that happen. And we'll see that in one of our videos later. Even after 5 or 6 minutes of high intensity work, we'll see the quality of the play go down in a second phase of it, like towards the end of it. So yeah, we have to try and develop all that as part of our training sessions.
Excellent. Thanks, Teresa. I want to welcome my colleague, Emily Martin, National Development Officer with Coach Ed. Emily's going to actually monitor the chat and the questions. So please, guys, if you have questions or queries throughout the session, Emily will monitor the chat for us, and she'll just touch in with us to let us know if there's anything that we're missing. So Emily, you're more than welcome. So I suppose, what does this tell us? I suppose players should have the ability to accelerate and decelerate. So to run off a standing start or whatever it may be, and to be able to stop. Gain possession while standing, walking, jogging, striding. Conduct other movements like sidestep, walk backwards, jump, land, twist, turn, change direction. And these are just some elements of physical element. There is, as outlined by Teresa, the strength in other areas to be working on, but we're going to focus on these tonight. I suppose players are not required to run at the same pace for any large length of time. Going back to the point I made earlier on, it's an intermittent sport. Nothing is steady, nothing is continuous. So how do we do our training to really cover all these areas? And the videos we're going to show you now for the rest of the session will hopefully touch on all these things. And just let you know, a lot of the stuff we're going to show you, you've probably seen it before. You're probably doing it already. And if it does inform what you're doing is good, then brilliant. If it gives you a few ideas of what you can do differently, even better again. So I suppose, Teresa, this is what we're going to try to cover tonight, is it?
Yep.
Nice short answer, Teresa. I like
Yeah,
it.
that's it. Roll them on.
Roll them on. Let's go. Okay, so we're going to show you videos. Look, as I said, guys, this is recorded, so you can look back in these videos in your own time. There's a lot of activities in here we feel are fresh or new, or maybe you might try out yourself. And there's a lot in there, as I said, you might have seen already. So look, we'll go through it and we'll go back through the why we're doing what we're doing. So hopefully, these will help you over the coming weeks in trying to achieve the demands of our game: twisting, turning, landing, acceleration, deceleration, and all those various components. So the first we're going to show you, and we'll play this. The clip will play along, and Teresa, we can talk over as we go along. And I suppose we can just explain what we're doing here. So, like, tell me, what do we see here? And I suppose these activities we're going to show initially are activities that you'd see in warm-ups 9 times out of 10. So Teresa, tell me, what are we seeing here?
Yeah, so we're just looking at an A march here. So we're just looking at the play. I suppose we do this to develop our players' acceleration. So it's really all about teaching the players to apply force into the ground. So I suppose just a couple of things we're looking for here. We're looking for good posture. We're looking for hand position will be pocket to chin, and we're looking for movement from that to come from the shoulders. And then on our foot position, we're looking for knee up, toe up, and the foot is placed just slightly behind the hip, so that that force it goes into the ground. In this one here, we're looking at a B march, which will lead into a B skip then. And this is a really nice, now this requires a good bit of coordination. So it takes a bit of practice to get right. But what we're looking for is, again, that knee up, toe up, good posture. And we're looking for the players to basically claw their leg back. So a little mistake that might be in this might be players flick out their leg. We want them to get the knee up like in the A march and then claw it back in under their hip. And this is a great little exercise for hamstring conditioning, as well as, you know, if you go to the gym, you'll be doing your deadlifts and glute bridges and all that kind of stuff. But for on the pitch, this is really, really good for conditioning the hamstring, because it kind of mimics what happens in sprinting when we're at like maximal stride length, when our hamstrings are kind of taxed to the max. So we're trying to condition that, so hopefully to help reduce the chances of getting a little hamstring tear and stuff like that. So it's a really nice little exercise.
And I suppose, Teresa, here, a lot of these exercises, like everyone in ladies football and female sport, lower limb injuries are very, very high in particular,
yeah.
knee injuries. So a lot of this stuff is helping stabilizing the lower body as well. As I said, guys, there's a GA15, there's a lot of really good dynamic warm-ups out there, warm-ups. We're only showing you a few clips, okay, because we want to get to the games as well. But we're just highlighting, these are important too, in terms of the acceleration and running technique.
Yeah, so you do that A march and into your A skip, and then your B march into your B skip are very good for helping the players, to teach them to put force into the ground. So again, when we're looking at developing acceleration, the fastest person will be the one who can get the most force into the ground, which is a function of strength, in the least time possible, which is a function of power, and then in the right direction, which is all about your mechanics. So you're kind of bringing those three together in that. And then that B march and B skip then is, again, very, very helpful for helping to reduce your hamstring injuries. I suppose we all know about the ACL injuries and how common those are in ladies football, but we do have a lot of other soft tissue injuries, which is, again, we do need to prepare our players to tolerate the demands of the sport. And sprinting, it does put a lot of strain on the lower limbs. So it's important that we condition our muscles and tendons and ligaments and everything to withstand the forces of sprinting. So that's a nice little exercise that you can do for that.
And
But
like I say,
do
guys,
be patient with it.
you have to be patient with it, and these are exercises that, again, guys, you probably do these in your warm-ups, but it's very important, that these exercises are just, I suppose, we're going back to the acceleration phase, and we're really hitting acceleration. These are a lot of elements that will help with power and also technique and posture. So let's go through a few more. Squat jump to land. A lot of people see, but you might see everyone here how Teresa does this as well, in terms of keeping everybody active as well. And these are just little activities. And we're going to finish with the ball on this one actually. But it's just interesting, Teresa. What's the squat jump to land? All these exercises people will be familiar with. In the chat function, let me know.
Yeah, and I suppose another thing with that, if you look at that, you can see the technique of some of the players there. We can see the knees are going in some of those, especially on the broad jump. So it's just something to be aware of and to cue your players that like your knee is aligned over your middle toe, that it's not collapsing in. And we know that's a big risk factor for ACL injuries. So again, setting it up in that format allows you as a coach to observe that. I'm only looking at 2 at a time there, so I can have a look at that. And then you just keep it moving then, and you can track that. We're going into our little A
And
skip
also,
here, I
Teresa,
think.
just there's a lot of people here who probably coach under eights. Guys, frog jumps, you know, all these
Yeah.
activities can be done with any age group. It's just, again, the stage of development you're coaching, the terminology just be different. Sorry, Teresa, your A skips.
Yeah, so these are just, yeah, they're going into their skips here. And again, this is linking in with your speed work as well. So again, we want knee up, toe up, arm position is pocketed chin, good posture again, and we're trying to hit that ground as hard as we can and get as much height as we can on those skips.
So, guys, a lot of these activities, I guarantee you're doing, but they're very important. I would think here, guys, is quality, Teresa. Like you're observing players' technique rather than trying to do as fast as they can. You know, they're very controlled. They're all doing it in a very controlled manner, which is very important. Sometimes we do these activities and we don't really watch out for what we need to be looking for. But these activities are important. So you're going to move it on here, Teresa, and you're bringing a bit of change direction with the ball, which I like the way you just progressed it on.
Yeah, and again, we were just chatting there about, bringing in the technical aspects. So this is like it's quite simple. Like it's just a 45-degree cut. Again, we're looking for players to push off the outside leg. But the technical aspect here is we want to see the players here hand passing with the outside hand. So if we're passing to a player on our right, we're passing with our left hand, and then vice versa if we're passing back in the other direction. So again, it's a nice little opportunity for you as a coach, as well as getting the technical aspects of the good mechanics of a sidestep in. You can observe the hand passing as well in this. So always using the outside hand so that it goes with your stride.
But you know what I like here, everyone? One grid is all you need. Simple.
Yep.
One grid, and you could do so much in one grid. And we'll see examples of that when we see Kleena doing a bit of work now very shortly. Thank you very much, Teresa. Okay, so next one, again, this is a bit of fun. What I like about this, everyone, is watch the girls and their reactions when we're doing this, and it's just a bit of fun. But again, it's acceleration, but how do we get there? Teresa, I'll let you explain it, because in fairness, you'd probably have a bit more knowledge of me in this.
Yeah, so again, this is just going back to acceleration. So I suppose we put a lot of emphasis on acceleration because most of our sprints are less than 20 meters, and 5 to 10 is kind of the most common sprint. And again, it's those first couple of steps out to win the ball. And if you win the ball, then you control what happens next. So we just doing these acceleration little drills from a variety of positions. So we start with our classical 3-point stance. So again, what are we looking for here? We're looking for that knee to be actually way over the toe. So we call that a positive shin angle. And then we're looking for the back arm then, so the opposite, to drive in opposition to the lead leg, and again generating as much power as we can when we're coming up. So again, this, yeah, we could like those players to be their knee a little bit further forward in that. But I suppose our analogy there would be to just come up like an airplane. So come really, really low, drive, and then come up as you progress into this.
On this, Teresa, I noticed that you have I suppose, the work-rest ratio. A lot of people say, geez, why don't you put them all on the line and they'll go out and come back in and do it straight away? Again, give a bit of understanding that the work-rest ratio is very important in these. Quality is better than quantity, and that's important when you're doing these, because these are actually taxing. If you're doing really well, it's over, I know, 10 meters, but if they're done really well, they're taxing. And you can't, I suppose, doing them all the time is probably the opposite effect, really.
Yeah, it's a really important point when you're looking to develop any kind of speed. It's the quality is of utmost importance. So in terms of the technique and in terms of you have to be totally engaged in what you're doing. So it's the maximal effort. So all those are max. So that's why sometimes it's good if you can race players, because they'll try and beat each other. They won't kind of go at it at 3/4 pace. So the work rest ratio for this is an absolute minimum of 1:6, and the longer it is, the better. Even 1:12 would probably even be better. So basically, if they're doing a little bit of acceleration work there, and it takes them, say, 5 seconds to do it, they're walking back. We're always telling them to jog back because we want to get through it really quickly. So this can actually take a chunk of your training session, but it's well worth doing it if you're thinking about it in terms of long-term player development, teaching them how to accelerate. So the easiest way to do that is to put, like we're always saying in coaching, don't have long lines or whatever. So the easiest way to do that, so that you're not actually counting time or anything like that, is put them in a group of a minimum of 6, maybe eight, and you won't be doing a lot of reps. You'll probably only do maybe max 8 to 10 reps, and that's it. But they're real good quality reps. So you're not meant to be physically tired after this. If you do actually do a really good speed session, you'll actually be like kind of sleepy tired, because it taxes your brain and your central nervous system more so than the work you'll be putting in with your muscles in it.
And I like this, like this is the bear crawl here. The bear crawl, again, you can bit of crack with this age group, but the bear crawl is bringing in that stability of the pillar, which is your shoulder to your hips. Again, nice way the way you integrated both there.
Yeah, and again, like we always take our cues, I suppose, from athletes, from track athletes, as into how to develop acceleration, because they're the fastest people on earth, or max speed. But we have to adapt it to football or to any field sport, because we don't start off from blocks. We can start from any position. So like what you said earlier, Will, we could be walking, we could be going backwards, we could be, jockeying sideways, whatever it is. We could be on the ground, and we have to be able to get up and accelerate from those types of positions. So we see the girls here, we have them turning off their left shoulder, and then they turn off their right shoulder in the rep after that, because that just could be the way that you find yourself on the pitch if you slip or fall, or if somebody puts you on your backside when you're training or playing a match. So we're trying to get them to get their feet under them and to stay low, and then come up and exert as much force as they can into the ground, so that they get off nice and quickly.
And these are enjoyable. Everyone, these are enjoyable. They're
Yeah.
racing against each other. They're fun. And we're going to show you ones with the ball shortly, so don't worry about that. But again, I always say, guys, these are fundamental movements that you need to be able to do in order to, before you even go onto the ball. And we'll show you later on where, if you don't have all these basics, you will tire fairly fast. So again, I think these are fun. So everyone, you'll have good fun with them, but you're really coaching the mechanics around the acceleration phase, which is one thing on the demand of the game. And we'll show you the other ones fairly shortly.
Yeah. So here we have the girls just rolling here. And again, like rolling is and doing stuff like tumbles are very good to develop girls' balance. And again, that's really good for them as footballers. And you think about, when you're in a game and you go up for a high ball, and you might be, sort of jostled in the air, you might get a little nudge or something like that. So to be able to regain your balance is really important. So these rolling and tumbling type of exercises, they're a bit of fun and everything like that, but they're very good again to develop the vestibular system in the ear, and therefore your balance as well.
I love doing this one with the younger age groups. Love it. Go tumble and go. It's great. And as you said, they're all laughing, they're enjoying it, and they're racing. But they're really effective in terms of that acceleration phase. Think about the demands of the game, and are all these activities mimicking that? Obviously, I don't know how to be tumbling down the field, but it gives you an idea that you never know. Geez, you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it's just the athleticism of being able to get from being a lying or a sitting position up to a standing position as quickly as possible. It does require a good bit of athleticism, so it's good to practice it.
It does. Okay, everyone. So we're going to move it on. Before I move on, Emily, is there anything coming through that you'd like to raise with us before we move it on to the next set of clips?
Yeah, I just have a couple there. Teresa was just saying, we had a lot of ladies with bad calf injuries this year. I know it was when you were talking about lower limb injuries, and what are good exercises to help with preventing this?
Yeah, I suppose your calf comes under a lot of pressure when you're doing those acceleration type exercises, and I know a lot of girls as well, or fellas as well, will find out when they're on Astro as well, it can be quite severe, and so the surface has a lot to do in it. You just have to keep working on your ankle mobility. You got to keep, just keep them stretched, keep them foam rolled. That's your kind of preventative maintenance. But then the other thing too is, like, there's huge pressure going through your calf and your Achilles tendon when you're pushing off an acceleration. So your things like your calf raises and things like that are very good exercises for that. And then we have little speed mechanics drills as well, like your ankling, so that we teach that ankle to absorb the force. And then you have your plyometrics as well. But I suppose the thing with that is you have to progress it nice and slowly. Like sometimes we can do too much at the start and just overload them, and like we said, like the tissues aren't able to tolerate that load. So it's introducing little stuff like pogo hops. And sorry, this is stuff you can do on the pitch if you don't have access to a gym. I know a lot of people won't have. So yeah, you can do little stuff like pogo hops, single leg calf raises, or double leg calf raises, and then progress into single leg calf raises. Maybe if you can do that with, weight it up as you progress. and then doing your plyos, and then making sure as well that you're always doing your calf stretches
Well, I think it's
and
very
your ankling and
important.
things like that.
Yeah. I think, Teresa, what's very important here is that, prior to all this stuff, you're doing your dynamic warm-up and you're including your dynamic stretching. So it's very important. Dynamic warm-up, dynamic stretching is very important. Like, this is at the end of a warm-up. I know we do this ourselves. It'd be at the end of the dynamic phase that we do all these sort of stuff. So there's a lot of warming up done before they even get to that phase. So it's vitally important.
100%,
Emily,
yeah.
is there another question before we move on?
Yeah, I've just got a few about sprinting, so I'll read them all out and you can maybe answer them all together for us. So, when in a session would you do the sprints? How often would you do a sprint session? And then another one you kind of maybe put in, some of the girls like doing cartwheels. Could you build this into acceleration? And then when can you start sprints, starting from week 1 in pre-season or wait to week 2? So sorry, that seems a lot there, Teresa. But basically, when in a session and how often?
Right. So when in a session is always after your warm up when you're fresh. So you're not, so I suppose there's two things about sprints. You've sprinting from A to B to get faster. Okay. So for that, it's always after your warm up. So if I can go from A to B in 3 seconds and I want to do it in 2.9, we're always doing that when we're fresh, not when we're fatigued. So that's when in the session. Now, in a different thing, if you're looking at developing multi-sprint stamina, so you want to be, so you go from A to B in your 3 seconds, you want to be able to do that at the end of the game as well as at the start of the game. So that's a different type of endurance training. If you want to develop that, it'll be kind of 3/4 of the way through your session or towards the end of it when they're actually getting tired. Now, to make that quality, you'd probably have to really time them, but or else maybe put them racing each other if you can't, just to get a quality effort from them to do that. How often? What was the second there about how often, Emily?
So how often would you do a sprint session? So maybe in a week.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I like, again, it's 48 to 72 hours ideally between doing speed. Now you might be only training twice a week and that's it. But again, yeah, I would do a little bit of speed work myself in every single session. It might be just teaching them mechanics, like if they've had a very intense day, we might go through our A and our B skips and reinforce technique without going into like actually mad sprints, and that could be a part of the end of the warm-up and stuff like that. But generally speaking, it's something that needs to be developed over the years. And I know a lot of people won't go near it in pre-season. They'll just do their stamina work and then they'll start doing it in championship. But it takes a lot of teach actually get all that stuff right. So the earlier you do it, the better. And just maybe starting off with teaching the techniques. And you like, it doesn't have to be, real mad stuff on that, but just building that in, I think is very important. Yeah, cartwheels are great. Look, the kids are going to do cartwheels anyway, especially anyone from under 10 and below, they're going to do it. But cartwheels are a brilliant way to develop their balance and to build their strength as well. So I'm all for cartwheels at any time. And then and then when in the preseason week 1 or 2, again, I would be starting off with my mechanics. It just becomes part of my warm-up. So again, if we talk about a warm-up, you have your raise part, then you've activate, mobilize, potentiate. That's your principles of a warm-up. They can come towards the end of that to activate and potentiate, like a part of your warm-up. So yeah, I wouldn't be waiting for week 2 as such. I just start going with them from the start and just start gradually building it up then.
And I guarantee everyone here, you're probably doing that dynamic, that GA15 style warm-up already. So this is just another addition to it. So it's kind of built into your warm-ups very, very easily. So it can be very easily done. So, but again, it goes back to what Teresa said, the mechanics are very important. Get the mechanics right first, and then you can develop it as you go along. Okay, we'll move it on. Thanks, Emily. We'll move it on. So another set of clips. So we're going to show again, so twisting, turning, changing directions, what we're going to see now, okay? And then we're going to show you a few games then, or a few activities with the ball, okay? So let's move it on. I hope you're enjoying the session so far. Teresa, really knowledgeable. And Emily, thank you very much. Anything coming through, let us know. So here we go, guys. So I'm going to play it first. And again, what are we seeing here, Teresa?
Okay, so again, we're just building up here. We're just incorporating. So we have a little bit of acceleration. We have deceleration before we change direction, and we have a 45-degree then change of direction as well, and then a little race then out to the end then as well. So again, we've a right lateral turn, we've a diagonal, and then we've a straight sprint. So it's just like, it's a very simple grid setup, but you can get so many aspects of your change of direction in this like as well. And I suppose the other thing with that is the stimulus to go. So I think in this one, we were chatting earlier, Will, we were saying that Kleena actually got them to go on the movement of a player. So again, our change of direction is all around the technique of how you actually change direction. So how you accelerate, how you decelerate, how you actually, what method you use to change direction, whether it's a drop step or a crossover step or whatever you're using. But the very important part of, I suppose, change of direction is a component of agility, and agility is a change in direction in response to a stimulus. So the most specific stimulus, I suppose, we will, like on a pitch, we will respond to our teammates' actions, to our opponent's actions, or to the movement of the ball. So then if we're doing it on, say, the middle player decides when to go, the rest kind of go as well. Or like usually we do it with a whistle or whatever it is, but it could be the stimulus to go, it could be a ball, it could be the movement of a player, it could be whatever it is. So we're training that in a nice little specific way then. And we're just getting pattern development here.
But as you see, it's simple, everyone. It's a simple grid. You could do so much. But look at this. This is where we're stopping. Very important to practice stopping.
Yeah, 100%. And the quality of your sidestep, like the quicker that you can stop and decelerate, the better you're going to be at changing direction. So like changing direction is all about, you'll accelerate first to get up to a certain speed, and then you have to decelerate, stop, and then re-accelerate in the new direction. So the better you can absorb that force and that landing, the better your sidestep will be, the more incisive it will be. And here we have them doing
the rollover is a big one. Yeah, the roll off. It's one that's not coached enough, really, I'd say.
Yeah, and again, it's make sure they both go in the same direction anyway. So they're going to roll off left and right shoulders. And again, something to think about in terms of the tactical aspects of the game, or sorry, the technical aspects of the game as well. So what you'll probably find is if you're left-footed, you'll be very good at rolling off your right side and coming back onto your left leg, and vice versa if you're right-footed. So teaching the players that physical capacity to roll off left, roll off right, because generally we maneuver ourselves around to get onto our so-called good leg, but we need to be able to do this off both sides as well. So this is a nice little way to, you can build that into a technical drill then as well afterwards.
Very good. So we're going to move on now, guys, to a T drill. But let's bring in a small bit of ball. This is tough, Teresa. This is tough. It's done really well. So it's a T drill, everyone. It's probably, I suppose, you're talking about 30 meters, but we're going to bring the ball into it. So let's watch it. But Teresa, you can comment over it as people watch it.
Yeah, so again, the T drill, so we have our acceleration to the middle cone, then we have a lateral side shuffle left and right, a re-acceleration again. And then after that, it's up to you as a coach how far you want to make that longer little sprint there. So that could be 10 meters maybe in week 1, then you might progress it to 20, 30 or whatever it is. But this is a real conditioning drill now, with bringing in those speed and change of direction elements into it. So what happens is you do your T drill, and then you sprint out to the cone at the end, you come back, you receive a ball, and then when you're quite fatigued after all that twisting and turning, then you have to deliver a really accurate kick then to your partner or the next person in line. So
That's tough. Like she's to go back out now
back.
again. Yeah, and she's good at speed. And I suppose this will relate back to context. Remember, running backwards, twisting, turning. That's covering all the demands of the game, Teresa, isn't it? Very simply, it's just, we'll finish it off there, So again, a T drill, but bring in the ball, covering all the demands of our game in terms of twisting, turning, changing direction, changing her pace, really, really good stuff. But again, if you don't have the good mechanics of the stuff earlier, then you'll find this difficult in terms of acceleration, absolute speed and stuff. Yeah,
and I suppose that technically the better you are, we're always kind of going on about players who do Ryanair turns, turn really quick and turn like an airplane. So you want that movement to be nice and sharp, so a good effective sidestep. But that is tough, and that is you have your speed, little bit of speed work in there, but that is really a conditioning drill. Again, going back to your work rest ratios, it's a nice little way to get players fit in movements that are specific to the game. And again, you'll adjust your work rest ratios there. So you'll have less people there if you want a conditioning effect. You'll have more if you just want a kind of more of a speed orientated effect in it. And I suppose with this one, everyone, how this is done, the players are reacting to one player. So if you're a coach, you might say to the girl in the center, you can go to whatever cone you want. The other two have got to react, and they try and catch her. So watch it here. So let's watch this, okay? She's deciding, okay, who's the one. So the girl in the center is dictating what's going on.
Okay, so if they look, I think it's actually the girl in the eye. Yeah, it's the girl in the eye. So therefore, they're one person dictates the movement, and the others have to react to it. So I really, really like that one in terms of, you know, you have a bit of fun with it. They're also working, but I like that sharp turn rather than the airplane. It's a sharp turn, stick and go, Teresa.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's what you want. Like, and it's nice to bring in that little bit of reactive element into it as well. And it's not just like it is good fun. It's enjoyable for the players to do it off another player or a different signal rather than the coach just saying go. But it's also quite specific as to what is going to happen during the game. You are going to react to your teammates, to your opponents, or to the movement of the ball. So it's nice to bring that in.
I like that. And just before we move on, everyone, just think about that one. What do players do? Do they run 4 steps and bounce? Do they solo straight away? Just even watch those mechanics of what are they doing with the ball? You know, take your 4 steps, then bounce, then solo. You know, so again, it's just something to be wary of. This one here, think about everyone. You've about the 45-meter line. There's 5 cones. There's 5 cones there. Now, you've only got 2 players going at the moment. You could have 4 or 5 players going here, okay? And basically, they're sprinting out to the 45 around 5 different stations, coming back and looking for a score. Teresa, tough one if it's done really fast. But now you have to also execute the skill under pressure. And you've got to get it over the bar. That's the key to it. But it's a real race, and it's really, really quick.
Yeah, so again, the players are going out, so they're basically doing disguised shuttle runs here. They're receiving a ball, and then when they're fatigued, they have to knock the ball over the bar. And again, you can try and make sure that there's good quality to this. Again, you can adjust the length of the sprints out and back. You can, and then you can maybe make a little bit of competition in it. So who can do it in the fastest time and get the most scores. So it's a little bit like the show jumping, no faults if you get over the bar, like, and then time. So, but it is, and then you can make sure that they're turning off both feet as well, off both sides.
Very important. And I suppose everyone, we're always talking about how do we measure improvement. If you did this, you know, and you got them to do it, and it could be all individual. So how many shots you get over the bar? What time do you do it on? Do you know what? No, we'll do it in a few weeks' time again. Let's see how you improved. Do you know? So again, it could be a very nice way to measure improvement of players. But you're doing this, and they're doing it really quick. And what you see there is that they really compose themselves to get that ball over the bar. Because at the end of the game, at the end of the day, the aim of the game is get the ball over the bar or under the bar if possible. Okay, we'll just go into one more, and Emily, I'll come back to you for a few questions. Here's a 3-player weave, but I like the way this has progressed on, and I like the distance. So it's 45, maybe 50 meters here, and they're really going at speed. Teresa, you can talk through these various progressions.
Yeah, so again, with this, we're looking for, are they using the outside hand again? So, you know, just bringing the technical aspect into it. I suppose with this one, what you can do here to progress it is you can lengthen it so that they're doing a little bit more work. You probably need to have, you know, 2 sets of 3 on one side and 1 set of 3 on the other. So you're kind of working in a 1:3 work rest ratio again. So if you want them to work for a little bit, to progress it and make them work for a little bit longer, you can bring back that run and make it a little bit longer again. Again, if you need to regress it, then just bring it a little bit closer.
So obviously here, this is a longer distance now. This is the full pitch. So wow. And I like that everybody to hear that 1 to 2. So 2 groups on one side, 1 on the other side. So therefore that work rest ratio is really, really high. So here it is. Now it's a longer pitch, but they have to get a score at the end of it. So I like the progression. You've changed the distance, a lot more demanding, Teresa.
Yeah, 100%. And after a long run like that, you know, we'll often say it in games where, you know, maybe a cornerback or a wing back makes a big run up the field, and they're probably the worst person to take the shot at the end of it because they're tired. So this is a nice little way of conditioning this. Now, what you could do with that as well is you could have 2 coaches on either side giving 2 footballs to the 2 girls on the outside, so all 3 are shooting if you wanted to progress it along that way. But yeah, that's tough when the legs are like jelly, and then you might make them score from a certain position or outside a certain position. So actually tax them a little bit more. Can you score from 20 meters out, 25, 30 meters out at the end of that run? Or it'll take a little bit more out of their legs. So it's a test of their technique as well.
And we'll see in a minute where we bring a game into it. Oh, this is tough. Okay, let's move it on and we'll see. Okay, before we move it on, Emily, do you want to come in there? So guys, we're going to progress on to games now in a few seconds. But before we do that, Emily, can you, anything coming through there?
Yeah, just a couple in there. Eileen just asked knee stability, any strengthening, and maybe foam rolling, how to. I'll let you answer that, and then I have another one from Manus.
suppose we
Okay,
look
so
at your lower limb. Is it strengthening the knee? Is it, Emily?
It is, yeah. It needs
Yeah.
stability and any
How's
strengthening.
your
yeah,
squats?
so your knee stability, yeah, it is. It's around your squats, your lunges, your deadlifts, strengthen up the hamstrings, and strengthen up the quads, and that's really the key to it. Along with that, then it's learning to land from a jump properly, and
Yes.
that's when we were chatting about the balance earlier, doing like little single leg balance exercises, your single leg squats, even little exercises where you're standing on one leg and you're trying to maybe knock somebody off balance, maybe back of the hand to back of the hand kind of thing. Just challenging them then to in and out of balance and to stabilize that knee. But the key thing with those knee injuries is that we teach girls how to land from a jump properly, so that they land with their hips, knees and ankles all bent. They land in that nice quarter squat position, pushing their hips back. We'll see a lot of girls, like we saw in that broad jump to vertical jump earlier, landing with their knees in. We've got to cue them to drive it out. Sometimes you might be doing that with bands, because it kind of brings your knees in, so it forces, it kind of exacerbates the fault as such, and then you're really cueing them to push it out. So you have all these little techniques to do it, but it's really around strengthening up glutes, glute max, glute med, strengthening up your hamstrings as well, because another thing with girls is that they're very quad dominant, which means they land straight legged from a jump. So that means their quads and hamstrings are, I suppose, out of proportion in terms of their strengths. Usually your hamstrings are 75% as strong as your quads. With girls, that can be that ratio can be altered a little bit more. So we have to do a lot of work on what we call the posterior chain muscles, which would be your glutes, your hamstrings, to actually balance that out a little bit, so that they can absorb force better and landing from a jump, and then teaching the technique.
And
is
just on
huge.
Eileen, on our level 1, we go through that an awful lot about the squats, the lunges, straight leg raises, how you stabilize and strengthen the pillar, and also how it relates to your key movement skills. Teresa, I don't know if you've got time, but do you know the clips on the girls balance each other? If you have that, if you can locate it on your thing, great. I forgot to put it in, but if you can't, there's no
Yeah,
problem.
I'll have a look.
Emily, while she's looking there, is there one more question? And maybe she can, Teresa, we'll get that, Eileen. There's a few fun little things we're going to show you shortly. Just one more question there, Emily, and we'll move it on. I'm just conscious of time.
Yeah, so Man's just saying, when talking about fitness, what's the best way for a group of coaches to approach the very difficult topic of girls who maybe aren't fit or slightly overweight without upsetting anyone or parents? Very sensitive area, and would be good to get some tips.
Yeah, it is. It's a sensitive area, and that's where I think where if you use your games-based approach to get players fit. So look at, if we go off and we do, say, straight line runs or something like that, it'll be very evident that some players will really struggle, and then others will just breeze through it. When you put them into those games-based scenarios, and we'll look at a couple of them here, it might give you some ideas around it, but it could be something as simple as a 6v6 in a little game, and then we forget sometimes that we can get very, very fit by doing, engaging in those types of games. We can get our heart rates up to like about 95% of our heart rate max, depending on how many players we have per side and the size of the area we're in. So it's a really effective way, and it doesn't really, just take players out of it and really kind of highlight, oh, this one isn't fit, like, or whatever it is. And again, you progress it. You might arrange your group so that maybe the really fit girls are together and they can kind of really push each other. And then you might have a middle group, and then you might have your players who are struggling a little bit with that, and you might put them in a group. They'll all end up doing the same game, the same exercises. They'll all get a benefit out of it, but it might be a way not to highlight it. And then you can mix them together for some other drills or activities or whatever, just not to make it too obvious, like, or whatever. But it can be. And again, the whole thing would be just start at a certain level where everyone can do something, and then just progress it up as the year goes on. And it will come together. It just takes time. It just takes weeks and months to kind of get that level of fitness up. And look at, again, not everybody's going to have different levels of fitness. Like, some are just naturally really, really good at that, and then others aren't, but they have other things then that make them good footballers as well. So
Exactly. So we're going to
just
move it
bear
on,
that in
guys.
mind, I'd say.
Just based on
I'll look
Teresa
at the tip,
there.
right?
So based on Teresa's there. So we're going to show you a few games now. Games that you can use. This is a tough one. Like, this is going to be a 3v3. So while Teresa's looking for that, it's a 3v3, right? So this is a 3v3 in a box. Then they're going to do a 3-person weave all up to the box. There's 3 teams here. 2 teams in boxes and 1 kind of tackling team. You can do the boxes here in 2 ways. You can time the box. Say, okay, team in possession, you got to stay in there for 30 seconds. Or if a team dispossesses, then they can go. So just observe this. Very interesting. So 3v3, small area. Now, this is tough. This is a full pitch, everyone. Watch it. Okay. So 3v3, they're working for a certain amount of time in the square, small square. They get dispossessed here now. Now the purple have to do a 3-player weave all the way up to the far side. Now, this is not easy. You'll see it in a minute where one group gets really, actually the group in purple, they're after tackling really hard, all the way up to the top of the other side of the pitch. And now it's their turn. But see, now they're absolutely knackered. But see, the condition here is that they have a certain amount of time. So the blue team are turning them over fairly handy because it's difficult. So we'll just watch that again. So again, it's the 3-person weave all the way. Here they come. It's a full pitch now. It's a really good game. Okay, 3v3, always go small-sided. Small-sided is the way to go. Go back to Teresa's point. You can get so much conditioning in through small-sided games. We'll show you the difference now in various boxes in a minute. But at the 3v3, they won the ball back. Now they got to go. Off we go. It's your turn. But you got to go at pace, guys. You got to go at pace. So after they go, they're going at their pace. Now, this is really tough. They're after tackling, winning the ball over. But now they have to try and hold possession of the ball, which they actually struggle with due to the condition of the game. So, Trees, that's a really tough one. That's a really tough one.
It is. You'd be tired looking at that one now, yeah. I'm not mind doing it, but it is. It's very, very tough. And again, when we spoke about the demands of the games, the high intensity efforts that will determine whether you're going to be successful or not, so your ability to win the ball, not to make mistakes, to get your repeated sprints in. And what we can see there is that, like, the girls did get tired, and that, I think that runs usually for 3 or 4 minutes in the 6v6, and then it breaks down into the smaller sided game, and that's really, really intense. You're really getting into anaerobic stuff then, and then you come down to the next part of it, like, and it's it's really tough when you can see the mistakes are happening. So again, our aim as coaches is to push that point where fatigue is starting to come in, like, later on into the game as possible. So if we look at our players, typically, maybe say for pre-season, we might see, geez, they're flying it for the first half and 10 minutes into the second half, and then they start to fade out and all the mistakes happen. So as we progress into the season and our training progresses, we're trying to push that point out to maybe the 45th, the 50th, the 55th minute, the 60th minute, so that we're going as strong at the end as we are at the beginning. Now, that's tough because depending on the nature of the match and depending on the amount of energy you've expended during the match, it can be hard to keep that intensity up unless you have really serious levels that maybe you might only see in inter-county level. But that's our aim, is to push that point of fatigue out to as late in the match as possible before we start making all these little mistakes.
And on this one here, guys, this is a 4v4 in a small area. And I suppose the question I'll ask you in a minute, Teresa, is, big and small areas. Here's a small area. So this is working on changing direction. So really short, snappy, changing direction, hold the ball in a small area, 4v4. So let's watch it now in a few seconds where it goes to a larger area, possibly 60 by 40. It's still 4v4, but a different conditioning effect. And I suppose I let Teresa explain that. So the small area is 4v4, really tough over X amount of time frame. Teresa can explain that. But now it's a large area, but it's 4v4. So now this is really difficult. And a different dynamic in terms of a different effect, really, Teresa, isn't it?
Yeah, so 4v4 is tough, and in the smaller square, you'll, I suppose, even go back to what you're trying to do in terms of the technical skills of the game. If we're in a smaller square, we're going to have a lot of twisting, a lot of turning, a lot of small little accelerations and decelerations. Maybe we'll get our roll-offs and our side steps and everything in there, and we'll have to make our decision as to what to do with the ball very quickly, so we're under an awful lot of pressure. Generally speaking, when we do that, we won't run that for a massive amount of time because it just takes so much out of the body, all that twisting and turning. Then what we do is, if we keep that 4v4 in that bigger area, now there's a different emphasis here because now we can kick, and we can kick effectively. So generally we'll try and probably keep it in a rectangle shape rather than a square to promote that longer kicking. And now we're asking the players to kick and keep their technique and make their support runs and get free and everything like that, while they're under fatigue here a little bit again. So again, it's a different type of emphasis in your training. This would be probably a little bit more aerobic. The other one in that smaller square where they're twisting and turning an awful lot would be a lot more probably anaerobic. So you could probably play for longer in this one, in the bigger square, even though, you might think that might be harder, but it's the twisting and turning and everything like that can really those energy systems. So again, we're looking at that square. We're using it to develop decision making. We're using it to develop our evasion skills. We're using it to develop our ability to think under pressure in the first game. And then we're in element of fatigue then within a bigger square. Now, can you incorporate the skills of kicking your support runs? Can you think ahead and get into space so that you can receive a kick pass? So
And
there's a
also,
lot going on in that.
a lot going on there, Teresa. And what you notice, everyone, is the skill level start to diminish, which is vitally important. And we did a study recently in a PDP whereby girls, big thing we spotted over 200 minutes of football was girls giving away the ball under no pressure, in particular kicking. So, it's very important that, we practice being able to kick and execute the skills of the game under that demand, under that pressure. This is a really good game, everyone. Last game we're going to show in this exercise here. 4 boxes, full length pitch, 6v6. So they start 6v6 for 40 seconds. They break out into a 3v3 for 40 seconds, and they join above the top for another 40 seconds, 6v6. This is tough. And in our own one, we actually bought in where they had to run back to the original box to finish it off. But let's watch this. This is a really good game, everyone. And this is a really good game that players really enjoy. So 6v6, as you see, it's a possession game. Whoever has the ball. Now, there's 2 balls in the boxes where they're going. Look, they're running to the 2 boxes on either side. First to the box gets the ball. Now watch the team closest. Now it's tough. This is tough. It's now 2v2 here. It's 3v3 on the other side. This is really, really difficult now. They're really getting fatigued. They're working for another 40 seconds. Watch them, look. They're struggling big time. Now when the whistle go again, they have to run to the next ball and the box above. Watch it now in a second. They are struggling, everyone. Watch this. This is going back to the demands of the game, Teresa. Twisting, turning, tackling. This is what the game's about. This is better than doing 5 or 6 runs in straight lines, in my opinion, Teresa. But maybe I could be wrong in that one. But here they are. Look, they're struggling. They're outside the square. They're not even inside the square. So, Teresa, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. And again, we're talking about the specificity of training there, and that is really tough because you have your 6v6, which is developing your aerobic capacity. That's not too bad. So that will run for about maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and then you get them to split on both sides. So you can put a little sneaky 40-meter sprint in there if you like as well, or 30-meter, wherever you want to put your 2 boxes on the sides. Then the 3v3 and 2v2 is really, really intense. So that's developing your anaerobic system. So this is really tough, and you can see they're puffed, and there's no place to hide in a 2v2 or a 3v3. Like you have to make the run because there's no one else there to give it. And then you put another little sneaky 40-meter sprint then down to the end, and you're back into your 6v6. And again, this is where you'll see the skills maybe deteriorating here because they're just trying to just stay going here in this last one. And the last thing you do is tackling there.
Yeah, and the thing about this, Teresa, if they don't get to the box, there's no one supporting their players. So they have to sprint. They have to get there, or your player's going to be isolated. And just everyone, just for good measure, in our own, I did this in my own session. When they were finished that, they didn't go 70-80% down to the far box and finish below. It was tough. This really works on a lot of areas around the demands for a game. Doesn't it really, Teresa? It's a really, really good game. Really good game.
Yeah, it does. And I suppose just one thing to bear in mind with activities like that, bear in mind the age of your players and the standard of your players.
Yes.
So like, you could be with the minor A team in your club and they're really, really good. And then you could have the under 14 C team, depending, I suppose, on the size of your club. Or even if you're in a small club, you could have a mix of 12, 13 and 14-year-olds. So just make sure you adjust those sizes to make them a little bit smaller for groups that are younger or maybe not as conditioned or not playing at as high a standards. So when you were saying, Will, about going back down the other end of the pitch, you were talking about like a senior club, wasn't it, or inter-county or whatever.
Yes.
Like, so it's just bear that in mind. You have to to keep it appropriate to the level of your players, like, as well, and their standards of fitness. And this is not a type of a thing you'd be doing in your first week back in training. This might be at the end of your preseason when they're actually going to be able for that, because they won't be able for the high intensity stuff on this at the beginning of the season. So they have to kind of work up to this. And that's important. Just on your point about the runs, Will, I suppose these small sided games are great for developing fitness. We always talk about integrated conditioning. So get as much of it done with the ball as you possibly can, and it save yourself time in your session, where you can hit the technical, the tactical, the physical and the psychosocial. And like there's a mental test in that as well, like even going through that. So just one little thing to bear in mind with small-sided games or these games-based approaches, you'll all know yourself that some players are a little bit cuter than others, and they can minimize the amount of running that they manage to do in games. So sometimes, and again, this would probably be more so with maybe minor up into senior, maybe not as much of an emphasis at 14s, 15s, 16s even. You might need to top that up with some sort of traditional conditioning runs, such as your mass runs, or whatever it is, because that way for you as a coach, you know that everybody's hitting a certain minimum amount every week, and then it's a nice way for you to control your training load, because if you're doing, say, 5 sets of whatever many runs, we'll say 8 runs or something like that, or sorry, 3 sets of 8 runs, you can progress then next week to 3 sets of 10 and 3 sets of 12, or whatever you're doing. But it'll just take more time out of your session. So get as much of this done as possible with these type of games, but sometimes you might need to top it up with the traditional conditioning methods as well, just to make sure everybody's at a certain, we'll call it a minimum level.
Excellent point. We're going to finish off with this, and then we're going to show what's her name, just a few activities that are fun, just to finish off. So just bear with us for a few more minutes. This is 1v1, 2v2. So 1v1, starts with 1v1, 4 1v1s. Here they are, 4 goals, 4 1v1s. Again, the distances and the area is applicable to the stage of development of your players. Then we're going to go to 2v2. Then they're going to play 4v4 on the goals. Love this. I do this an awful lot with underage. I do this all the time with underage. I actually do this an awful lot. If I have 30 players, I'll have it set up in a way where there's 15 1v1s. Then we're going to have 2v2s, 4v4s, and maybe finish with 8v8s. But let's watch it. This is really good, because when you're 1v1, really, Teresa, it's really tough when you're taking on a player. So here, guys, you have 4 coaches in the center. You could have 3 coaches or 2 coaches in the center, throwing a ball to each pair. You see here, guys, what I always say is let the reds win the first ball, let the yellows win the second ball. So everybody's getting an opportunity to do that 1v1. And you could do 5 of these each, or whatever, 3 of them each. It's tough. So just at the start, now they're going 2v2. But it's very important we have a condition that you have to pass the ball to your partner before you score. So here you see now it's gone to 2v2, and they're working on 2 goals. So as I said, the 1v1, they're all working their own individual goal, as you see. Then it goes into 2v2 where they're working on 2 goals. They can decide what goal they want to go to, okay? But it's very important that they get these opportunities. So again, Teresa, these small-sided games, 1v1s, as many as possible, 2v2s, 4v4s, really good for conditioning. And also, I suppose, the space and the size is very important. And we're going to finish off here, guys. You'll see they're going to finish off with 4v4, where they play on the big goals on either side. So it's a nice activity, but also, Teresa, it's a great activity from, I suppose, a point of view of conditioning too.
Yeah, and for technical skill development as well. So if you look at that starting off with your 1v1, and if you're the defender, now we spoke about our little change of direction drills that we had earlier, where they were pre-planned. So you were going forwards, you were going lateral, you're doing a 45-degree change of direction and acceleration. Here you're actually bringing it up into a really game-specific scenario. So on those 1v1s, if you have the ball, it's all about your attacking agility. So how do you get by your player to get that goal? So are you going to sidestep? Are you going to roll off? And again, we kind of mentioned about you're going to respond to the movements of your teammates, the ball, and your opponent. So it's really specific. And then that'll take it on another little bit then when you go for your 2v2. And sorry, it's the same thing then when you're in your defensive agility, because offensive and defensive agility are actually different. They're different. Some people are very good getting by players, but they're not so good when players are coming at them. I was one of them, right? And so it poses different questions to you in terms of your defensive agility. So can you read the movement of the player, and can you kind of anticipate where they're going to go and go and say block them or whatever? Can you put them onto their non-dominant foot? So it's really good in that term, from that point of view. And then with your 2v2, then obviously you put in the condition that you have to have a pass, because again, what are you going to do now? Where are you going to make your support run with the player on the ball? And then it progresses again. And the more players you bring into it, I suppose, the more tactical it starts to become then, rather than individual one-on-one skills. So yeah, that's a great little activity there for that.
Excellent. If you want to share that we're going to show you guys just for in terms of strengthening lower stability, but also I suppose having a bit of fun. And I just kind of dip in here. I think I don't know if Emily's still there, but anyway, yeah, Alan, like 3v2, 4v3 is good for decision making, but also good for conditioning because it all depends, Alan, in the size of your activity. Like, is it 3v2 in a big area or a small area? You know, so if it's a big area, that's going to be tough. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you can marry both together, Alan. I hope that answers your question. Trees, you can keep trying there. You can let me know if you can get that sorted. Yeah, the game based drills. You can still do really good conditioning through really good organized game-based stuff, which will really help. So that's just something to be aware of. So we're just going to show here. These are all on our YouTube, guys. Fun activities, athletic development to redevelop that lower limb stability. So just give a look at this in your own time. And Teresa, this is a bit of fun. They can do this a bit of crack, but also it's working that lower limb stability, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, so this is just Heather and Denny here. So they're standing on one leg, and as you can see, they're going opposite arm, opposite leg, and they're just back of the hand to back of the hand. So all they're doing is challenging. It's a nice little kind of a safe little exercise to do. So as they're pushing each other over, they have to regain that stability in their knee, and then obviously in their ankle as well. So you can make a little game of this. So you give them 3 lives, and every time your partner forces you to put a foot on the ground, you lose a life. This is another one then a little bit more strength based. So you could do that on the line on the field, the 13 or the 21, whatever you're at, and you basically try and pull your partner over the line. So what you want with that is that they get into that quarter squat position and they start pulling, using their legs rather than their back. And here we have just another little one to get them, strengthening up the quads in a little fun-based way, and that can be part of your warm-up as well. This is around core stability, so it's just shoulder taps. So again, they didn't do a great job of evading each other here; they're just hitting each other. But the idea is that you'll kind of move around and you'll try and evade the player from hitting you. And then this is another one, nice little one for building up strength in the legs and a little bit of power. And again, keeping that balance because your balance has been challenged all the time. So it's just a palm off there. Don't interlink the fingers because they might get broken, but just, yeah, there we go. So there are a few little things we can do around that, like single leg activities. And I just say with that as well, that when you were doing standing on one leg, you can do that hand passing a ball, 5 or 6 passes in each hand, swap hands, swap legs. Then what you can do is you can throw the ball up high, stand on one leg, then do it with the other leg. You can throw the ball a little bit to the left and right to challenge them as well, and you can roll the ball on the ground as well. So they're basically getting into a straight leg deadlift to pick up the ball and try and keep their balance and just keep that going in their for a little bit of knee stability. So
you can stop the share there if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, yeah, look. We'll go into the chat function here before we go, Teresa. If you want to go in and you can check as well, I'll try and go through how long should a preseason run for roughly, says Eugene. Teresa, how long is a preseason? It all depends on when your games are starting, but 4 to 6 weeks?
Yeah, easily. And I suppose, and it's again, I would say it will be important as well that if you can do those little body weight circuits and stuff like that, just to prepare your muscles and ligaments and stuff for the demands of the game, because and then just don't go mad at the start. Like, just put it at a nice appropriate level. Again, you'll know your players at what level they're likely to be at, and then just progress it. And the rule of thumb with progressions is you increase the volume, whatever it is, by about 10% roughly per week. So if you're doing something like say if you're doing conditioned running, right? Say if you're doing something like 3 sets of 6 runs, next week it'll be 3 sets of 8 maybe, then it'll be 3 sets of 10. Don't go from 3 sets of 6 to 3 sets of 12, doubling the load kind of nearly, or the reps. If you want to keep say you want to keep it 3 sets of 6 because of time, maybe you're doing, I don't know, say 30 meters for one run, and then it's 35 in week 2 and 40 and so on. So just progress it nice and easily. And then in terms of your games, the way you can progress that is maybe you can change the number of players you have. The more players you have, the more aerobic it'll be. The less players you have, the more intense it'll be. If it's very intense, keep the time shorter. And I'd say for 3v3, don't go longer than a minute. 30 seconds to a minute is loads. For 4v4, you probably go maybe a minute to 2 minutes. For anything 5, 6, you'll start maybe at 4 minutes, and then your progression might be, we'll do 3 games, 3 sets of 4-minute games. Next week we'll do 3 sets of 5, then we'll do 3 sets of 6. We might go to 3 sets of 7, and then on week 4 or 5, what you should have then is an unload week where you just bring it right back and that's basically to let all the fatigue that they've accumulated over the last 3 to 4 weeks just dissipate from the body, and then you can build up kind of from, say, the midpoint of your last phase, and then move it on. So you'll kind of go up 2 or 3 every month. So I would say 6 to 8 weeks for pre-season. Again, will depend on your players. If they're keeping themselves in great nick over the winter, it won't have to be as long. If they're not that type of team, you might have to start a little bit earlier and just progress it a little bit more slowly, or just don't bring them up to, just accept that they won't be right for maybe 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks.
100% takes time. So everyone, I know there's loads of questions coming through. So what we'll do, we're very conscious of time. This is obviously recorded, and like there's going to be a feedback form after this, guys. If there's specific areas, I see one person asked about circuit training. That's a webinar itself. So yeah, 100%. We really love to try and do what people are looking for. So again, in that feedback form, please put in areas that you'd love to see more of. We'd love, because we want to keep it simple as well and relevant, that you can understand it and you could utilize yourself. So we hope you enjoyed tonight. What we'll do is we'll give a look. I'll save the chat. Don't worry. If there's any specific questions that were asked that were not answered, I promise you, we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you individually and we'll give you those answers. But we hope you enjoyed tonight. I just want to say thank you very much to you, Teresa, for your assistance and your information, your knowledge. We hope that the games and the activities that we showed you tonight will help you over the coming weeks and months with what you're trying to achieve. And hopefully there was something different in there that might, keep a bit of freshness with your sessions. Okay, so we're back again, guys, in January the 17th. I think our session is how to keep smiles in our session. So we're going to look at a different angle. We'll show you loads of videos of games that we try out to get girls smiling and enjoying their session. So hopefully you will be back to join us for that. I want to also thank my colleague, Emily Martin, for joining us as well tonight, for coming on and watching the chat function. But on that note, everyone, I want to wish you a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you. We hope you're enjoying our various webinars. Hopefully we'll see you again in the new year. But on that note, thank you for your input. We hope you enjoyed tonight. And for that, good night.
Right, Slán.